And here we go.
There's the W. Here's ignition.
Roger, roll, Atlantic. Doubling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, you know.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation.
Equalize.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No! Oh, God.
Yikes, you bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good morning. It's early in Florida. The songbirds are definitely asleep, but falcons are about to soar. Luckily, we got a couple of night owls with us today. My name is Magnus Bergheim. I'm your host for today, but I am not alone. Joining me is the one and only Sawyer Rosenstein and the one and only Max Evans, who are in the comms with me today. And also on the field is Jerry Pike. Hey, Sawyer, how are you doing?
Talking while muted.
Yes, I am. I'm doing great. As you can tell, totally wide awake and totally not ignoring the mute button. No, it's pretty good looking for, 2:22 in the morning. But hopefully we've got a launch coming up, and that's always exciting.
That's always good to hear. Max Evans, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning, everybody. These late night, I almost said Starlink, but these late night, I guess, being that it's a mission for the National Reconnaissance Office, I guess we could say these late night spook links be hitting different. I don't know. It's past 2 a.m. This is prime time for Falcon 9, as we have become so used to here on the Space Coast of Florida. But it is always a treat to see Falcon 9 vertical over on the pad at pad 40, especially with the recently reduced Falcon 9 launch cadence. It is always good to be here.
That's great to hear. You mentioned Starlink. This is, in fact, not a Starlink mission. Sawyer, what are we expecting to launch day? What is NROL-95?
Yes, so this mission is a satellite, and it is for the National Reconnaissance Office, and it is launching on a Falcon 9. It is part of the U.S. Space Force's Space Systems Command as well. And that's about all I can tell you, because that's about all we know. It is very much a secretive mission as part of the National Reconnaissance Office. It was procured back in 2024, assigned to SpaceX, and now obviously they are ready to launch it. The only other thing that we know about it is that it's going towards a northeasterly trajectory, and either the payload or payloads must be light enough to allow for the booster to come back and land, this time over at landing zone 2. So it doesn't need to go downrange to a drone ship or anything. It'll come right back onto land. You can see there that northeastern trajectory. And yeah, I wish I could tell you more about the payload, but we don't know it.
Yeah, we might not know too much about the booster, but we do know some things about the rocket. Max, can you tell us about the booster flying today's mission?
100%. So over on the docket at pad 40 is booster B1096, and tonight will be only its 7th mission to date so far, so a fairly young booster in the Falcon 9 first stage fleet. In terms of flight history, it currently consists of Kuiper KF-01, IMAP NROL-97, GPS-39, CRS-34, and only one previous Starlink mission. So yeah, a very young booster, which we are not too accustomed to seeing, especially with the recent flight of booster 1069, rest in peace, soldier, and the fleet leader being 1067, now at 30. So gosh, was it 36 flights or 37 flights? I can't keep track anymore. There's too much happening. But yeah, a young booster, which is quite special to see on the pad nonetheless. But as far as we can tell, there's not much that's too out of the ordinary for Falcon tonight, because it is heading, I almost said downrange. It's coming back to landing zone 2 tonight, as per the payload weight and mass allowing SpaceX to perform a non-site recovery over at LZ2, which is kind of weird because SpaceX has a brand new landing zone over at Pad 40 that they've opted, I guess, to not utilize tonight. Whether that is be to there being some construction over at Pad 40 or around Pad 40, just outside of it to not warrant a landing over at LZ40. We're not entirely sure, just like the information on the payloads, we're not entirely sure why they're opting to use LZ2 over LZ40 this time, but that is why they have LZ2 still and not LZ1. They have it in case they need it, and just for cases just like tonight, but also for the more rarefied missions being from Falcon Heavy with a double RTLS recovery. Hopefully one more coming up pretty soon with the launch of the Nancy Grace Roman telescope. But this, good. I almost said it's heading downrange again. Goodness gracious. But the payload fairings, of course, are also heading downrange on this northeastern trajectory and are going to be scooped out of the water by the fairing recovery vessel. If I read that right, it is dug downrange tonight, which should be around 600 kilometers, maybe closer to 800 kilometers downrange compared to what we normally see. So as far as we can tell, in terms of an RTLS flight profile, there's not really too much out of the ordinary apart from the selection of landing zone 2 tonight. But again, it's a super secretive mission for the National Reconnaissance Office. There's only so much that we can actually report on besides what we see.
That's always good to hear. And for those who are joining us on YouTube, we do have a panel, and you can tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight, and we'll get to your questions when you get them sent. And just want to acknowledge here we have a super chat from Rick. Can't see the full name, but he says, near the launch site now and happy to have you as our guide. Most important thing is providing you guys great coverage. That's the entire point here. And great that you're close to the pad and watching a rocket launch.
Also, new feed.
Yep. Also wanted to thank Jared Sweeney for becoming a PadRat member. We always appreciate that. But we are counting down at T-minus 42 minutes and 42 seconds. Sawyer, what can we be expecting in the timeline at this point in time?
Well, at this point, we should be hopefully getting close to the point of getting ready to fuel the vehicle. So in about 5-ish minutes, they should hopefully give the go for prop load if all is going well over on the SpaceX side. And if so, then at T-minus 35 minutes, that's when they start the prop load, beginning with the RP-1 on stage 1 and the LOX on stage 1, as well as you can see there, just the RP-1 on stage 2. That will continue till about 20 minutes and 20 seconds when we get the 20-minute vent. That also is when they chill down the lines so that they can load the much colder liquid oxygen into the second stage. So that's all to come. Of course, unlike Starship, we don't get to hear all of the stuff going on behind the scenes as much. So the way that we'll know that they are prop loading is either an ex-post or more than likely seeing the frost start forming on the vehicle.
Yep, in order to launch a rocket, you usually need to have some propellant in it, so that's a relatively important step in the timeline today. Max, I do have a question from Michael Ball, Michael Ball, who's asking, isn't Nancy Grace going to be expending all 3 cores, 10.5 metric tons to L2? Anything you can comment on here, this one?
No. So the launch of the Nancy Grace Roman telescope aboard Falcon Heavy is going to bring both side cores back to land. So one over at LZ40 and the other at LZ2. I think there might be a different mission in there that you're thinking of that will require a tri-core expenditure. I guess that might be the correct terminology there. But Nancy Grace, even though it is a very big and very, very heavy spacecraft, based on where it's going and the method it's choosing to get there, Falcon Heavy does not need to expend all 3 cores and has the propellant margin left on board to bring both side cores back. It would be a lot more expensive ride to orbit if they had to expend all 3, because of course SpaceX does not get those boosters back, and they are not cheap to produce. So based on where it's going, even though it's going to L2, that does not warrant a tri-core expenditure from a Falcon Heavy this time around. We may see one later in the year. I can't remember if it's for the Space Force mission, the scheduled Space Force mission aboard Falcon Heavy, or the other one. I can't remember the actual name of it right now. I'll have to recheck the manifest. But no, Nancy Grace Roman is bringing both side cores back to land.
It's always nice seeing those double Falcon core landings on the Falcon Heavy. We had one factor here for launch. That was a 30% weather chance of violation. Sawyer, how is the weather looking out there wherever you're at?
I'm over on the Space Force side here, which again, thank you to them for offering us viewing for this. It is relatively clear. There was a thin cloud layer that was kind of hanging over most of Florida, or at least the, southern central part here for the morning, but it is cleared up dramatically. There's still a couple of thin, wispy clouds hanging around in the area, but for the most part, it is pretty clear skies. It's a little bit of a light breeze, but nothing SpaceX and Falcon 9 can't handle, because while we know that Starship can launch through lightning, Falcon 9 cannot, but we've seen it launch in some pretty strong winds, so even if it was stronger, it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I believe the feed we're seeing on screen right now is this yours or Jerry's feed, Sawyer?
Well, that's Jerry Pike who set the camera up and will be tracking with it. But he's maybe 2 feet from me right now. He's directly next to me. So
This looks like, it's a great view. How far away are you guys from the launch pad right now?
about 2 miles or so from where we're located here. It's a little bit further from here to the landing zone. I think that's closer to 3.5, 4 miles. But from the launch site itself, from Slick 40, it's about 2 miles. That's why I wish this would have been an LZ-40 landing, but is not the case. And as Max said, we don't know exactly why. SpaceX hasn't said.
Yep, definitely interesting. They built a brand new spanking landing zone, and we don't know why they're using LZ2, but they do have LZ2 available if so is needed. Just wanted to go through some support from Bideford Annette, who says, "Good morning, good evening, guys. Another night, no sleep, nothing new. Love the RTLS, as we might see a good sonic boom. Hugs all," with a $25 piece of support. Thank you, Bideford Annette. And most importantly, thank you to Max, thank you to Sawyer, and thank you to Jerry, who are out in the field and providing this amazing coverage and these amazing feeds for you guys.
Thank you, Bideford.
Hi, Bideford.
And if you guys are in chat, remember to thank Bideford as well.
She's a regular. She's great.
Another question from E. Michael Ball, who says, "Good to hear, guys." Responding to the other one. The later launches are Griffin Mission 1 to TLI and a bunch of military and NRL payloads. Yes, that is the remaining manifest for Falcon Heavy that we do know, and we expect to see some more of those missions soon.
I think it was the Griffin. I think it was the Griffin mission that was either going to expend all 3 cores, or they were going to experiment with a double side core C recovery. Don't know if there's been a finalized plan published on that yet. I think that's something that we've been speculating on for a while. I think Kiko Donchev, who is VP of launch for SpaceX, I think hinted at something of the sort earlier in the year, although I don't have the exact tweet or post on me at the moment. I'll have to hunt it out, or if someone in chat can find it, please, feel free to link it or spam it, whatever. But I think Griffin is one that has maybe some weirdness to it. But this one and the Space Force mission coming up, hopefully in the next maybe couple of months, are both going to be, as far as we are aware, they are bringing both side cores back to land here at the Cape.
Yeah, speaking of Griffin Mission 1, according to Next Spaceflight, we are expecting a landing at LZ-40, a side booster landing at LZ-2, and a center core recovery on the drone ship, of course. Sorry, of course, it's still a shortfall of Gravitas.
I wish that drone ship was still here.
Oh, yes, please.
Wrong coast. But we are at 35 minutes. At this point in time, we should be within the beginning stages of prop load. Sawyer, are you seeing any indication of prop load from your end?
Well, it's a little hard to tell right now. The biggest indicator is going to be frost, and I will say there's one stubborn bush right in the way. In fact, there's a lot of stubborn bushes, but one directly in my view to see the frost. So we're going to keep an eye on it. And again, chat, if you see it, tell us.
Again, in order to launch a rocket, you need to have propellant. So this is, again, a very important piece of the timeline. Going through some more support from the one and only Space Pope, who is saying, space blessings to all of you and a successful flight. Thank you, Space Pope, for the $20 super chat. We appreciate you. We see you all the time.
The Space Pope. Yeah. Nice.
Nicely done, Max.
Also
you, Space
from
Pope.
Fairson the Rise with a $5 super chat. The LZ-2 landing could be an NRO requirement. Sometimes the rocket plumes can interact with sensitive radio communications, and in some cases, this is speculating. Max, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm struggling to make sense of that, to be honest. I mean, obviously, the booster coming back to LZ-40, the payload is not there anymore, so that would not be a factor. I don't know if it's an NRO requirement to land it at LZ-2 for whatever reason. But again, there has been no statement published by either SpaceX or the Space Force or the NRO stating why LZ-2 is being chosen over LZ-40 tonight. Although I like where your brain is going with that. I like that you were thinking out of the box with that one. Although I'm way wrong on that, but I'm struggling to make sense of that one.
Yeah, we don't know more than most of you guys here. There hasn't been published a reason why LZ-2 is chosen over LZ-40, but most importantly, we get an RTLS landing, which is always nice to see. This is, again, NROL-95, which is part of the Phase 2 of the NRO missions. Sawyer, can you tell us a little bit about the Phase 2 contract that was awarded a couple of years back and how it was split between ULA, SpaceX, and maybe some of the controversy that was related to the entire situation?
Max, can you take that one a sec? I'm just working on something here real quick.
No, you're all good. So there obviously are different phases that are assigned from the National Reconnaissance Office to various launch service providers based on their needs and what vehicles are ready and able or would be able to provide their their services to get the payloads for the NRO to where they need to go. There isn't a whole lot that we can speak on that as to why, but obviously Falcon 9 is a very capable launch vehicle, so is Falcon Heavy. And obviously Falcon 9 has proven itself to be an incredibly reliable workhorse to this point over the number of years that the Block 5 has been in service now, having first launched 8 years ago back in 2018, which is kind of nuts. But it's proven to be reliable, and obviously the National Reconnaissance Office is looking to expand their technologies and improve their current constellation of satellites whenever they can to improve their surveillance of whatever they want to look at, right? Or whatever their purposes are. Again, we don't know. We know like next to. I know we sound like broken records saying we don't know what the payload is or like what they do. But that is just the nature of these super top secret payloads and what they do or don't do, and what we can and can't talk about them, right? So it's a matter of what vehicles are ready or might be ready during that time, and what technologies the National Reconnaissance Office is looking to expand upon. And I believe Falcon 9 was just selected today. It was announced today to launch a further, I think it was 18 missions from Slick 4E for either the Space Force or the National Reconnaissance Office from Vandenberg specifically. So obviously Falcon still has a lot of life left in it. And speaking of life in the vehicle, I believe we have frost aboard the first stage now there, Magnus.
Yep, does look like we are seeing Falcon 9 getting frosty as that liquid oxygen load begins on that first stage, along with the RP1 load, which you can see at the bottom of the transporter erector. You can see a little bit of condensation there at the bottom end, and it looks like we're seeing the frost and some condensation. On your screen right now is the countdown timeline. So we can confirm that there is a prop load going on, which means we are going to expect that launch to happen in 30 minutes and 25 seconds. If you are available, what are we expecting next on the timeline here?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm good now. You caught me while I was just checking something real quick. Anyway, yes. So right now, as you can see there, we have about 10 minutes until finish loading up the RP1 on stage 2. Then they will thermally condition the lines to get them ready to transition from the closer to room temperature RP1. There are some companies like ULA that do it at room temperature. SpaceX still chills it down a little bit because they have the load and go and the super chilled propellants. So it's colder, but not super cold compared to the liquid oxygen that they. So that gives them time to get the lines ready so that you can run that super cold liquid oxygen through it and start loading up the second stage. And all of this while stage 1 continues to get its locks and RP1.
Good to hear. Just again, wanted to go through some support, which we're super thankful for. RC Horseman with a $50 Canadian adult super chat. Good morning, crew. Glad y'all made it back safe. Probably referring to Starbase and Flight 13.
Thanks, RC.
Thank you, RC. And we got a question here from Tim McCarthy, 37. At NSF, have we heard any new updates regarding the results of Starship Flight 13, results since the rocket touched down in the Indian Ocean? Max, you were at Flight 13. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Indeed. So SpaceX over recent days has been posting some updates on the condition of Ship 40, which is still currently, as far as we are aware, afloat in the Indian Ocean, and they are prepping resources to actually recover the ship in some capacity. As to what capacity that is, we are still waiting to find out. Whether it's they're going to bring it back to the U.S. or bring it onshore somewhere in Australia for further analysis before scuttling it somehow or scrapping it, I don't know. But as far as we are aware, I think we have seen the status of one or two more ships or vessels of sorts heading out from Australia to meet it or rendezvous with it somewhere in the Indian Ocean closer to Australia mainland. So it's doing all right so far as we can tell. Ship 40 is still afloat. Although it is a very dead ship right now because it doesn't have any power and there's no way for us to actually track it beyond marine traffic tracking assets. I guess that's probably the best way to handle that, or just having some of the best satellite photography available that we have also seen once or twice now, thanks to our friend Harry Stranger. But yeah, as far as we are aware, Ship 40 is still in pretty good shape. Although it might take them a bit longer to bring it back on shore to wherever they want to go. Although the ultimate fate of Ship 40 at this point is still a bit unknown. Again, as to whether they want to just do a form of on-land analysis over on mainland Australia, or if they want to somehow try and bring it back to the U.S., say perhaps to the Port of Long Beach. Or maybe bring it through the Panama Canal and bring it back to Starbase, as amazing as that would be. As you can see here, here is the recently posted satellite imagery from Umbra, courtesy of the folks at Umbra, and through, I think it was a collab between our own Ryan Caton and Harry Stranger as well, having that set up. As you can see, Go Australis there is on the right-hand side of your screen, and Ship 40 is on the left. And this is a pretty good image for a satellite looking down at two blobs in the middle ocean, as far as we could tell. So yeah, as far as we are aware, Ship 40 is still on the way back, although we are not aware of its ultimate fate right now. So I guess we will have to wait and see what either SpaceX or Elon, I guess, posts to this point.
Yeah, we are allegedly pretty close to Flight 14. But before that, Wilbo Baggins, thank you so much for a £2 super chat, who is saying, work, scrub, RTLS, better option.
Yeah, who needs work anyway, right?
You said the word. You said
Yeah.
the freaking word.
Should have said
Oh,
S something,
no.
but hey, as long as it's
Oh,
work
no.
that's doing the S word and not the rocket.
Exactly. Getting used to this here. We have a question here from Mr. Fluffy regarding Starship. So, friends, Roman's Falcon Heavy launch or Starship Flight 14 first? Sawyer, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm going Roman. I think August 28th is close. I think they can hit it, but the fact that as of right now, Nancy Grace Roman is like 2 days after it, I think it's going to be really close. But you know me, I tend to be on the side of caution more when it comes to the timeline. So I think first week of September is extremely doable. And for everyone at NSF's sake, I hope that Starship goes first. Or Nancy Grace Roman goes first away from Starship by like a week, or Starship goes first and gives them plenty of time to come back. Otherwise, yeah, I think Nancy Grace Roman's going to go first.
Max, what do you think out of Roman or Flight 14? Who do you think is going to launch first?
Oh boy. Well, I just want to say for the record, I'm hoping and praying that these two missions do not coincide or conflict with each other in terms of scheduling, because I would love to be there for both. I want to say that for the record, especially if Flight 14 does end up being a ship catch attempt. So that being said, though, Roman has been very firm on the August 30th launch date for quite some time now, and teams have been working quite well towards meeting that goal, and the launch date has actually moved left a couple of times, thanks to some very efficient teamwork from those working on Roman itself. That being said, like, we're still speculating on when Flight 14 of Starship will actually be, what that will entail. I think the overall target for them was around 4 weeks between 13 and 14. That would put it in the last week of August, very close to the launch of the Nancy Grace Roman telescope, which again I'm hoping and praying they deconflict by at least a week. That would be amazing, and I'm putting that out to the universe right now if anyone is listening. But I'm pretty sure I'm a lot more confident in the launch of Nancy Grace Roman happening first. That being said, SpaceX are an incredible group, and we have seen them move very rapidly with Starship in the last couple of months, with both Flight 13 vehicles getting prepped and moved very quickly. So I would not put it past them to launch in pretty close proximity to Nancy Grace, but I'm pretty sure Nancy Grace is going to be the one that goes first.
Yeah, no, the fact that we are even seeing a chance of a Starship turnaround at only, that's just over a month, and potentially with the ship catch if everything is going right, is absolutely insane to me, which is important if you want to ultimately send Starships to Mars. And that's related to a question from Cube1Burr, who is saying, at NSF, Elon tweeted humans will be on Mars in 5 to 7 years. How feasible is this? Sawyer, what are your thoughts? Do you think we'll be on Mars in 5 to 7 years?
As humans? No. As robots, potentially launched by Starship, I think that's very possible. I think right now, SpaceX has said it themselves. Their focus currently is getting humans back on the moon. And that's NASA's focus. That's a lot of people's focus right now, is getting to the moon and then setting up a permanent base there, being able to send people regularly. I think once SpaceX gets that down pat, then they can focus on Mars. So that's why I think if we hit the window either 4 years or 6 years from now, we could see them sending down. I know they discussed the robots to go down there and start setting things up ahead of time. I think that we could do that. Otherwise, I think humans are still a little bit further out.
Max, what are your thoughts?
You know, I choose to remain optimistic about these sorts of timelines, even as unrealistic or overly optimistic as they may sound, from those either in the industry or those who would just want to criticize, right? 5 to 7 years seems very optimistic for having people on Mars. That seems a lot more feasible, if not like too conservative, to get people back on the moon for sure. But depending on how Artemis goes with Starship HLS and how that would help influence a crewed Starship technology demonstrator to Mars or future Mars vehicles capable of carrying crew, there's nothing stopping SpaceX from pursuing a separate avenue from Artemis to go to Mars and see how that route goes, or to try and get their feet wet there. So I would say 5 years, very optimistic. 7 years, I would say, is definitely plausible, but I think we will have to wait and see how Artemis 4 goes at least, and also just how the Starship HLS technology progresses. So, yeah, again, 5 years, very optimistic, probably not likely, but 7 years, I think there is still a spitting chance there.
Yep. But as fun as Starship is, we do have a Falcon on screen, and we are getting close to the T minus 20 min event in about 4 seconds. Sawyer, what is the T minus 20-second event, and why is it even done?
Talking while muted.
Talking while
Son of a
muted.
gun, I'm having a great night tonight. Here we go. Yes, now we can see the 20-minute event. As you pointed out, we can see it with the Mark 1 eyeballs as well. And this is an indication that the RP-1 load, the Rocket Propellant 1, has wrapped up on the upper stage. They now need to be chilling things down here on those lines. As I was mentioning before, the LOX is a heck of a lot colder than the RP-1, especially since it's super chilled as SpaceX does their load and go. So they want to get the line chilled down and ready before you randomly go from warm things to super cold things immediately. So it's a chance for them to cool it down. It takes about 4-ish minutes or so. And then usually about the 16-minute mark, once that disappears, that will mean that they are into the propellant load of the LOX on stage 2. Meanwhile, stage 1 still continuing to get the LOX and RP-1.
Yep, as we get to about 19 minutes to launch, just wanted to welcome anybody who's just jumping in at this point in time. We are watching the launch of NROL-95 as it prepares for a launch from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Again, we don't know what this payload is. We do know it is a payload, a satellite, for the National Reconnaissance Office, which is expected to launch very soon. As always, if you haven't already, you are able to tag us in chat at NSF or at NASA Spaceflight in order to ask questions. And we'll try to answer those as we go. Question from a couple minutes back here from Elias Greenhoff, who says, at NSF, when Landing Zone 2 stops supporting landings, could LC-39A landing pad start progressing, or will a shortfall of gravitas in LZ-40 compensate all the launches? Max, you're kind of the booster guy here. What are your thoughts on potential Falcon Heavy landings in the future as other launch providers take over and start using LZ-2?
I mean, there is paperwork filed for NLZ or LZs for Falcon cores to be constructed over at LC-39A, and we presume that was going to be supporting Falcon Heavy missions to not split the boosters to Pad 40 and then LZ-2 like they do now. That being said, like, we've observed zero work of any kind around Pad 39A regarding the construction of Falcon landing zones at all, let alone one big one or two smaller ones for each core. We haven't seen that whatsoever. A lot of the work there has been focused solely on getting the Starship pad ready to support its first ever launch, hopefully by the end of this year. So, regarding Falcon Heavy, it is still a very rare beast to fly. I mean, let's think about this. The Falcon Heavy, since Starship Flight 5, which was in October of 2024, Falcon Heavy has flown twice. and that is 2 years almost. We're very close to 2 years now. Twice in 2 years, hopefully flying at least 3 times this year, 3 more times this year. And I think it has flown 11 or 12 times overall since its debut flight back in 2018. For a rocket that flies as rarely as Falcon Heavy does, I wonder if SpaceX is starting to reconsider whether it's worth the effort to build 2 separate concrete landing pads for side cores over at 39A when they could just use Pad 40 and LZ2 as long as they have access to LZ2. If they lose access to LZ2, they can either start doing try and squeeze both boosters over at LZ40 or try and squeeze both boosters on one drone ship out at sea because they only have one drone ship here now in Florida, mind you. Or they build an actual larger pad or 2 separate pads over at Pad A to support 1 or 2 Falcon Heavy sidecores landing there. Bit of a mouthful, and it's a bit of a thought exercise there, but it's one that we have to run through ourselves as well because we've seen no work over there recently for it, right? So I think as long as they still have access to LZ2, I think they're going to just keep up with having a booster go to LZ40 and then LZ2. I don't know if they're going to be even have a desire to build landing pads over at Pad A anymore, but we'll have to wait and see what happens and what they opt to do in terms of either expending 3 cores or trying to bring both cores back or land the cores at sea. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see what the future holds.
As we approach the 15-minute mark to launch, that means the T-minus 20 event is well complete, but we did have a piece of support from Fair Sunrise with a $5 piece of support saying, behold, the enthalpy of vaporization of liquid oxygen, excited chemist noises. Yeah, we always fun to see those big vents. Those are always fun to see. And also something from Mr. Fluffy SNMO2 with a $2 super chat saying, we need KMR on a Friday night post the Flame Trench BF6. It's Thursday today. That means we have the Flame Trench tomorrow, which is always something to look out for. And maybe we get a occasional KMR producer jump in, which is always the best part of the show. So
does
KMR,
Kevin play video games, or is he too old?
I don't know. I don't know, actually. That's a good question. At least he can come on and say hi, I guess. But there'll be a lot more help if Kevin comes to either play or just listen in. I'm not sure. But having Kevin on a post show like that would be pretty rad. So Kevin, if you're listening, come hang out tomorrow night.
Yeah, Kevin, everyone wants to see you. It's time. You have to jump on. We have a question or a statement from Sky High Gaming who says, at NSF, I like this channel because you actually answer people's question. And also, I have a question. When is the next New Glenn launch? And do you think SpaceX will try to catch Starship?
Oh, gosh.
Sawyer and Max, I guess we'll start with Sawyer here. When do you think New Glenn is going to launch?
Next year, if I had to guess. I would love for it to be the end of this year, but in terms of the pad itself, we just saw them the other day over on our Space Coast Live 24/7 cameras remove the last piece of the lightning tower / launch towers that they have over there. Well, I guess technically the lightning tower took itself down during the New Glenn event back in May. But yeah, they just disassembled the last part of the tower there. We've seen them on posts from Dave Limp and Jeff Bezos of them removing parts of the flame trench still out of there. They came up with a plan to rebuild, which is awesome. And I hope we get to where they get to rebuild it and, put it back together and do the design that they put in that animation. But based off of where they're at in terms of still removing parts and then having to repair it and put it back, and this now being an integral part of that new plan for pad access, I think it'll take until next year. I hope it's early next year if it is next year.
Max, do you want to follow up on that question? Maybe point out some Starship things with that?
I mean, so there's obviously two separate questions here. So sticking with New Glenn, if I may, to sort of elaborate on what Sawyer has said, I'm basically in the same ballpark as Sawyer in the fact that I think we are still a ways away from seeing New Glenn fly again, even though Blue and Dave Limp are pretty hell-bent on flying by the end of this year. There is still a lot of work to do with the pad left to get it ready to even receive a vehicle, let alone testing, let alone launch. Especially with the new design that they want to pursue, with the one vehicle access tower now, and a sort of like space shuttle RSS or rotating service structure looking structure connecting to New Glenn. Don't know how that's going to play out or how long it'll take to build that. We'll have to obviously wait and see how it goes. But I'm in the same boat as Sawyer. I think at the earliest, I think they could be ready to fly would be probably spring of next year. If I had to guess, if I had to be more realistic, it'll be probably summer. Although that is beginning to cut close to Artemis 3 at that point as well, in terms of what vehicles may be ready and if the pad's even ready at that point, right? Obviously, the pad has to be ready beforehand to support Artemis 3, and obviously Blue wants that done. Starship, I think Flight 14, pending any good data review or bad data review, I think they're going to go and try and catch the ship on Flight 14, unless we see or hear of anything different. The ship TPS put in a lot of work on the last flight, and it apparently was very, very accurate upon landing and splashdown in the Indian Ocean. Good grief, words are hard. But we had a great view of how good that TPS held up after flight, and it looked great. Even bobbing in the water, it looked phenomenal. So hopefully, we can see more of it on Flight 14.
Speaking of ship TPS, that's the most crucial part in actually protecting the ship through the extreme temperature of re-entry. We happen to have a similar product found at the NASA Spaceflight store, which is our SPF UPF 50 sun shirts, which can protect you from the sun the same way Starship heat shields are able to protect Starship from the extreme heat of re-entry. I know Max has definitely used some of those in the past in the Starbase heat. Max, maybe you can quickly comment on that.
I mean, yeah, I've said it on stream all the time. I wear these essentially every freaking day now, whenever I'm in Florida or Starbase, especially this time of year. They are great in terms of making sure that you don't get fried by the sun. I think that is the best way to put it. But they are wonderful, great designs. They are very, very comfortable. So if you want one, I would highly recommend you grab one as soon as you can.
Just a fair disclosure, despite them being great at protecting you from the sun and looking like a heat shield, don't necessarily recommend doing atmospheric re-entry. We can't guarantee that it can protect you from the extreme plasma heats of re-entry, but we can say it is going to help out with some hot Texas sun. But with
Can
that,
confirm.
we are 8 minutes away from launch. Sawyer, with all those people jumping in right now, can you tell us a little bit about this mission and what we can expect to see? Sawyer might be muted again, or busy.
Okay.
But Max, you're also here. What can we be? What is this mission, and what can we expect to see in the next few minutes from now?
Yeah, so unfortunately, as we have said a few other times during the stream, this is a mission for the National Reconnaissance Office. And with that mission payload, or this mission profile, there's not much info that we can go off of in terms of what the payload is, what it's going to be used for, exactly where it's going, what it looks like, how much it weighs, what its purpose is going to be, because it's all top secret, and that is not information that we are privy to at the moment. So essentially, all we know is that this is a payload or payloads, depending on what it is. We don't know, for the National Reconnaissance Office, and as far as we can tell, it is heading off into a low Earth orbit with enough propellant left on board to bring the first stage booster back for an on-site recovery over at Landing Zone 2 tonight. So a rather good treat tonight, being a nighttime RTLS recovery of a Falcon 9 first stage booster. booster. Haven't had one of those in a while. But that's essentially what we know about the mission tonight. And as I was saying earlier, it is heading off on a northeast trajectory. So if you are north of the launch pad, say in like maybe Mims, New Smyrna Beach, Daytona, Jacksonville, and you have good weather, look out to your southeast or just your east, and you will see Falcon 9 heading off into orbit tonight. So a rather special treat, and with the boost back, will look incredible here on the ground, pending these pesky clouds getting out of the freaking way for that amazing and backing the booster all the way back down to the ground. So it is going to be a good one tonight.
Yep, weather does look good. We are getting closer to launch, and with that, we have just heard that the fuel load, stage 1 RP load is complete, and Falcon 9 has just begun its engine chill. With that, we're going to lose our commentators as they prepare to provide some amazing live views from the field. But don't stick around, because we are expecting a launch in just 5 minutes from now. To those people who are located on the east coast of the United States, in the Florida regions, in the Carolinas, and upwards, you might be able to see this launch. We don't know the exact trajectory and the inclination, but on your screen is a hazard map that shows the hazards expected from the fairing recovery and all that stuff. So if you are located on the East Coast, be sure to look up in 5 minutes from now in order to potentially see a launch and see that boost back nebula, which is going to be an important part here of the launch. Always great to see. As we get closer to launch, we are expecting to see the transporter erector retract. This is something that's unique to the 39A pad and the 40 pad. Unlike the Vandenberg pad, the pad at 40 and 39 has a transporter erector that is able to retract a little bit before launch, a couple degrees, and then when it gets closer to the launch point is when they will retract it fully at T0. Compare that to Vandenberg. Vandenberg has a transporter erector that is going to retract fully at this point in time. So we have a little bit of a different design between the coasts right here. As always, we are getting closer to that launch point. We are seeing the completion of those fuelings here. We are just a couple seconds away from the completion of the Stage 1 LOX load, where it will be fully loaded with its liquid oxygen propellant. Falcon 9 uses a combination of RP1 and liquid oxygen in order to bring it into space. And an important part of that is having that LOX load complete. Following the completion of the Stage 1 LOX load, we will still have some fueling of the Stage 2. And we have just passed that point in time where Stage 1 has completed its liquid oxygen load, and we are still having some liquid oxygen load on that second stage as we get into launch. On your screen also is a live view from the 40 tower, which shows that that transporter erector has been retracted a little bit prior to launch, which is important part of the launch process here at the pad at 40. And as we are getting closer to that launch point in just around T-minus 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I just want to give a super quick rundown of the mission. This is the launch of the NROL-95 mission. It is being launched aboard a Falcon 9 rocket from Space Launch Complex 40 in Cape Canaveral Space Force Base in Florida. Again, this is a classified mission, so we do not know the specifics of the satellite or satellites. We know it is a payload for the National Reconnaissance Office, awarded under the Phase 2 contract, which was awarded in August in 2020. Apart from that, we don't know much, apart from the fact that Stage 1 is going to be landing on LZ2 in just a few minutes from now. We have just also heard that the Stage 2 LOX load is complete. And the next point in time is going to be startup as Falcon 9's onboard computers take control over the countdown, which is going to take place in just around 1 minute and 20 seconds. In about 10 seconds from now, Falcon 9 will enter startup, and the onboard computers will take control of the vehicle and the count. An important part there is the tanks will also pressurize for flight, and that will be the final part of the launch configuration. And we should have a call at this point in time where the launch director would be giving a call for a go. And we are just around 30 seconds from launch. As we get close to that launch point, we will remain silent on the commentary side, so you'll be able to hear the rumble from the mics placed out in the field. We're just around 20 seconds away from the launch of Falcon 9 and NROL-95 here. About 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and we have ignition and liftoff of NROL-95 aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket to orbit for the National Reconnaissance Office. The vehicle has cleared the tower. At this point in time, the rumble is getting more quiet as the vehicle gets higher in altitude. The vehicle has just passed through the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure, which is the point in flight where the speed reaches a ratio of atmospheric pressure where the amount of aerodynamic stress is the greatest on the vehicle. At this point in time, as the vehicle accelerates through the thinner parts of the atmosphere, that pressure will start to decrease. The next event in flight now is going to be MECO, stage separation, and second engine startup in quick succession, which will be taking place in around 30 seconds from now. Following the separation of the first and second stages, the first stage booster will perform a flip maneuver powered by RCS thrusters and start its Merlin engines in order to do a boost back burn in preparation for a landing at LZ2 at the Cape Canaveral Spaceport Station. We are expecting to see those engines cut off in just a few seconds from now. And there is MECO. Means our stages have separated. We should be seeing second engine startup and the start of the boost back burn very soon. There are some onboard views from SpaceX showing the confirmation of the separation of the stages and the second engine startup. At this point in time, the first stage is performing its boost back burn with the power of 3 Merlin engines, which is going to burn in a retrograde configuration in preparation for this landing at landing zone 2 in Cape Canaveral Spaceport Station. Falcon 9 is quite far downrange right now, and it has quite a bit of horizontal velocity in order to put this thing into orbit. Rockets don't launch just straight up, they also launch at an angle, and as a result, Falcon 9 has to turn around and start its engines again in order to get its trajectory back in the opposite direction. We are expecting to see that boost back burn complete in just around 5 seconds from now. we should see those engines shut off, and it will be on that return trajectory. And with that, we have the shutdown of the first stage boost back burn. Just a fair reminder, considering that this is a National Reconnaissance classified mission, there will not be any Stage 2 images from the second stage from SpaceX. There will not be any Stage 2 telemetry, and we will not get anything else from that second stage. But as you can see there on your screen, those 4 hypersonic titanium grid fins are deploying in preparation for a landing at LZ-2 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Falcon 9 is still ascending at this point in time as those speeds slow down. It is 138 kilometers, and we should start to see a descent start very soon. Falcon 9 is in its coast phase, where it is using the power of its RCS cold gas thrusters, which are powered by nitrogen gas, in order to control it in space. Falcon 9 is going to coast for another 2 minutes here as it prepares for a landing. And we are actually able to see on the right-hand side of your screen, we have a Stage 2 view from Max, who is at the Kennedy Space Center press site providing these live views of Stage 2, which is the only live view of Stage 2, considering that SpaceX is not showing any Stage 2 views. So we can confirm that Stage 2 is burning through its portion of flight. And Max still has that good track there, showing that little dot as it gets farther away. It is traveling to a northeast pathway, and it is passing by the Carolinas and the eastern parts of the United States as it gets farther away. We are just 1 minute away from the beginning of the entry burn, where Falcon 9 will start its engines in order to protect itself from the extreme heats of atmospheric entry. Despite not being an orbital flight, Falcon 9 is still going to experience quite a bit of heat, and we actually see a graphic there from SpaceX showing Falcon 9's return trajectory as it continues to fly on. We are just around 30 seconds from the beginning of that entry burn. The reason for this entry burn is that Falcon 9 does not have a traditional heat shield. It has some thermal protection systems, but it does not have typical TPS tiles or ablative heat shields like Starship and Dragon. As a result, it uses its Merlin engines to ignite and act as a pillow and a plasma heat shield in a sense, and it helps slow it down and protect itself from the extreme heat of re-entry. We are expecting to see the beginning of that entry burn in just around 10 seconds from now, and that entry burn should last somewhere around 20 seconds. And there is the beginning of the Stage 1 entry burn, where the center Merlin engine is followed by two outer Merlin engines, totaling 3 engines. We've got some beautiful tracking shots from our team out in the Florida side, and that entry burn is already complete, as SpaceX has a little bit of latency there as it continues to descend. Falcon 9 at this point in time is just around 40 seconds away from touching down at landing zone 2 in the Space Coast side of Florida. It is traveling at 3,000 kilometers per hour, and we're going to see some rapid deceleration just simply due to atmospheric drag. You'll be able to see that telemetry on the left-hand side of your screen as it starts to slow down, already at 2,000 kilometers and an altitude of 10 kilometers. We should see the beginning of the landing burn in just a few seconds from now, where a single Merlin engine will take and slow the vehicle down in preparation for landing. And there is a live view from our cameras showing the beginning of the Stage 1 entry burn, the glow as it lights up the Space Coast of Florida. Got a tracking shot there as that engine slows it down for a soft touchdown at LZ-2 only a couple seconds from now. And touchdown of B-1096 as it completes its 7th landing. You heard those sonic booms through the microphones placed out in the field, and that landing is confirmed. At this point in time, stage 2 is completing its burn. However, we do not have any onboard views or telemetry aboard this flight, considering that this is a classified mission for the National Reconnaissance Office, and therefore we do not have that information. But those payloads will eventually be cataloged. But we do have some people who were out in the field and experienced this launch. Sawyer, you were relatively close to this. How are the sonic booms and how was this launch?
The launch was spectacular. I mean, the sound was beautiful tonight, which normally with, this few of clouds, even though there are some and not as much humidity, it doesn't linger as much. This one kind of did. And then, the sonic booms, needless to say, that part of my camera went out of focus the exact moment of the booms just from the shock of it. I've seen this dozens of times, and yet I still jump every time. But always a treat to see the sky light up like that, especially at night.
Yeah, no, it looks like you guys had some great views all the way through the entire portion of the flight. Looked like it was pretty crystal clear there. Crystal clear morning. Max,
we had some clouds. There was definitely some clouds made it a little harder to see the Falcon Nebula, but still, hey, we got a gorgeous launch and landing.
Max, you are on Kennedy's side. How was this launch for you?
Well, one of the advantages of being here, at Kennedy is for launch, we get the VAB squeal, which is where the sound waves from Falcon make the exterior panels on the VAB like rattle and shudder at such a frequency that it sounds like it's squealing to us. Same with actually the sonic booms going back to LZ40 and LZ1 and 2, I guess now just 2. Tonight we heard a bit of a different noise. So we heard obviously the twin sonic booms, or technically triple sonic booms, but it sounds more like 2. And we heard it like echo off the VAB first before we heard like the pew pew from the actual panel. So it was like it almost sounded like the VAB blew up. I have no idea how else to describe it, honestly. It was very kind of off-putting, but also kind of awesome because I've never heard that before. But my word, that was absolutely beautiful. A wonderful nebula, and we had the entry burn from here perfectly as well, and a bit of the landing burn before it went behind the trees, unfortunately, those pesky things. But yeah, I forget how much just of a treat RTLS missions for Falcon are, and that was certainly no exception.
Yeah, but you just mentioned the VAB. Can you confirm that the VAB is still standing?
The VAB is still standing and looking to be in one piece.
That's great to hear. Relatively important. We don't want that thing going anywhere.
Yes, no. That's very true, yes.
So for anyone who's just joined us after this launch, are you able to give a super brief summary of this mission, what we just experienced, and just give a super quick rundown if anybody just joined us?
Yeah, I mean, you see there, that's what we want to see, an empty launch pad. Because that means it launched right on time, well, minus a 118-second delay from when they originally planned. Beautiful launch. The first and second stages separated. The second stage did whatever it's going to do because it was a National Reconnaissance Office payload, which means they don't tell us. It just does its thing, and we as taxpayers have to go, yay, we paid for whatever that is. But the first stage did its entry burn, which we could see here through the clouds, and then beautiful touchdown over at LZ2, waking up all the people on the Space Coast who might be trying to sleep at 3:23 a.m. Eastern. So, yeah, overall, that was pretty good.
Yeah, Max, you were even able to see some of that stage 2. How was that?
That was one of my shakier tracks that I've had in a while, but I guess I am still rusty because I haven't tracked a Falcon 9 in a while, let alone an RTLS. But I actually lost it in my track just after Miko, and I couldn't reacquire it for the actual nebula. So apologies for that one. But had stage 2 in view for a while there, and then began to reorient the camera basically straight upwards, because that is normally where the entry burn is or appears above our heads. when the time comes. It's shockingly it looks like it's right above your head. Like that's how it's kind of alarming the first time you see it. And then obviously it goes from above your head to just above the actual tree line in such a short period of time that honestly it's still tough to get your head around just how fast it goes from above your head to basically on the horizon. But yeah, that was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, to those who have seen a return to launch site, whether it be Super Heavy or Falcon 9, it looks like it's terrifying seeing this thing falling at between 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers per hour. It is insane. But before, just want to bring one thing before we get some replays for you guys. Sawyer, question for you, because you are the one and only shuttle guy. You share Endeavor. Endeavor's the best shuttle. But
Agreed.
Question for you. Sawyer, from DJ WB417 asks Sawyer, is a shuttle puzzle called a shuzzle?
Oh. Or is it a
World?
puddle? It could be a puddle. But I do like shuzzle.
Blasphemy.
I know these are words apparently, but yeah, about that. Yeah, that Endeavor launched for the last time though in I believe it was 2011, early 2011, but this one launched tonight and I think Jay already has replays.
Yeah. And you have some spectacular views there as Falcon 9. I believe that's You'll Thank Me Later. Is that the barge?
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the more. Yeah, it's one of the more interesting things about Port Wayne where it sits right now is that it completely blocks our view of Pad 40 from our fleet cams, but nonetheless, it is still a bit of a. It's an interesting site because obviously you have the current workhorse with Falcon launching behind it, and obviously SpaceX's future right in front of it in terms of what is going to be transporting Starship launch vehicles, at least initially, from Starbase to Florida. So a bit of the current and the past and the future in one frame there, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and if we're lucky, we're going to be seeing that transport a Super Heavy and it hopefully ship by the end of the year for a launch from the 39A launch pad.
We should definitely see vehicles here by the end of the year, but launching or not is the bigger question. But alas.
And there's a view. Max, this was almost kind of like your view. This camera is from a similar location from you were.
Yep, this looks like one of our robotic cameras from here, right on what we call the hut here at the Kennedy Space Center press site. We have a fleet of RoboCams over here at KSC, and this is one of 3. Yeah, it's always nice seeing it climb over the actual tree line there as a sort of man-made sunrise there, with the NASA symbol there in the foreground. 'Cause obviously here, this is quite literally the press site. This is where we gather for all, not all, but most actual media events, and obviously for launches.
By the way, I did leave a photo that maybe we'll be able to see before the end, but I do need to pack up here on the Space Force side. Max, been up for a little bit longer as we enjoy more of these replays, but it's been a pleasure being with everyone for tonight's launch, and hope you enjoyed the show.
Abandoner.
Well,
hey, I'm with the other abandoner too. It's fine. I'm with Jerry.
Hey, Sawyer, thank you for providing us some spectacular shots from the Space Force side. It was absolutely incredible to see this from your and Jerry's eyes. Thank you for joining us.
It's always a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be here, and we never forget.
All right, but we still have Max with us today, who is located where this robotic camera is. We still have some more replays from our other cameras. Incredible seeing how Falcon 9 basically acts as an artificial sun, like a sunrise.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the byproducts of any rocket that burns Kerolox and or solid rocket boosters, just that they burn incredibly bright. And that's in contrast to Starship or New Glenn or any other rocket that burns on methane or hydrogen, even more so on that because it burns basically translucent unless you are the RI-68 on Delta IV Heavy with an ablative nozzle and glowing orange. But yeah, RP1 and or solid rocket boosters are always such a treat to see at night because you really cannot miss it. I promise you. You cannot miss it.
Yeah, which makes me kind of excited to see what happens with Starship and Super Heavy when we inevitably get a nighttime launch, because that's Methalox and not Carolox.
Indeed.
But it's a big rocket. So, and I believe this is Jerry's track.
Look at this. This is such a great perspective,
incredible.
honestly. And I have to give once again a shout out to the 45th Space Wing and them supporting media operations over on the Space Force side for tonight's mission. It is such a treat whenever they do, and they always give us the best views possible from their area. So thank you very much to the Space Force and the 45th Space Wing in particular. Audio. Oh my god! Whoa!
Whoa. The
Literally
interaction
punching a hole in the clouds. Yeah, that was nuts.
That was incredible.
I think that's when Jerry hit one of the locks on his tripods. That had to have been. Because these things go very high. I mean, obviously, duh. But depending on how you have your tripod configured, if you're not prepared for it and you're not ready for how high you actually have to aim your camera, you might bump into the actual tilt lock there. But yeah, look at this. And the way the clouds are moving, it looks like Falcon 9's stationary there. Look at that.
Completely stuck.
Yeah, literally.
And always one of my favorite parts is when you get close to stage separation, you get that Carolox blue fire, which is unlike anything else. It's spectacular.
Yeah, it goes from obviously a very bright orange to a sort of darker orange to red to blue to purple, and then it just fades. Obviously, once they get to Miko, but yeah, the exhaust look at this. Now it's like a darker orange, now red, and now it's transitioning
Pink.
into like a blue. Like look at this.
Whoa. Then it goes to a greenish color as it gets so high up and there is that
Miko.
cutoff. Oh, and I wonder who took this.
Oh,
Max.
I don't know. I
what happened to know this guy?
I couldn't tell you.
Look at that.
It's been a minute, folks, since I've worked a Falcon launch, and as spoiled as that may sound to say, it's been a very busy month, so kind of shaking off the rust with tracking Falcon again. But yeah, it's always a treat. This was a very, very clear one tonight as well, so a very good track, or at least visually. May have audio with this one as well. Maybe.
Oh, there it is.
Cons.
It's interesting how only a couple miles of difference makes in the perspective of the launch, with Jerry's looking almost stationary and yours it looks like it's gunning it up in the sky.
Oh yeah, I mean that's all dependent on where you are and I guess how the clouds are moving as well, right? But also, Jerry and Sawyer were basically half the distance to the pad that I was tonight here at KSC, which is why Space Force viewing is such a treat, because sometimes you can get super close. About as close as media really can get to a launch pad, which is amazing. But at that point, obviously, because they're more south of the launch pad, so the rocket with the rocket flying northeast, the rocket is more flying away from them, whereas from here we're more directly west of the launch pad. We have more of a side-on profile, so we get a better view of the rocket as it ascends from a different perspective.
Yeah, technically speaking, there's a point in time where you're closer to the rocket than they are.
Technically,
Technically, close.
yeah. I never even thought about that. So maybe, potentially, possibly. And landing burn. Look at this. Expect sonic booms with this audio, and you might hear me as well. Oh no, this is Jerry's. Oops. I may have talked directly over the sonic booms. Apologies. This is mine. Awesome.
I don't know if the squeal there was related to the landing burn audio. Was it?
I didn't hear any audio on that one, at least in terms of sonic booms. So that I'll have to ask Jay on that one. I think it's from one of our Cape cameras over near Jetty Park, looking out towards LZ2, in sort of the left corner there.
Still lighting up the sky, and as it lands, it goes back to nighttime. And it's nighttime again.
Snap your fingers.
Sunset.
Yeah, if launch
And-
is a sunrise, this is a sunset. There it is.
Where you should play Here Comes the Sun.
Except we get copyrighted and taken
Yeah,
off
exactly.
YouTube. Nice.
And sunset.
A rapid sunset. Boom, gone.
And it's nighttime again. Back to 3 a.m.
And it's gone.
Where's Falcon? It's not there.
It's not anymore. It's not.
And we still have a pad view from you, and we should potentially see it in the future. That transport director is going to fall down. It's going to roll back into the hangar. It's going to get another Falcon, and they're going to launch again. That's how it goes. Keep on flying. Now, with that, we are going to get close to a close here. Still waiting for... Alrighty. Max, thank you for joining us today and providing some absolutely spectacular views from the Kennedy Space Center press site.
It has been a pleasure as always, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to hang out with us during this very, very early morning here on the East Coast of the U.S. And we know you probably have better things to do and better places to be, but thank you very much for spending some time with us and watching Falcon 9 do what it does best, and obviously with a very special RTLS. So thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you again very soon.
And I just wanted to extend a huge thank you to Jerry Pike and Sawyer Rosenstein, who were with us earlier on, joining us from the Space Force side. I also forgot to mention in the beginning of the stream, pulling all the levers and pushing all the buttons, creating this amazing broadcast for you guys, is Jay Keegan, who is our producer for today. My name is Magnus Bergheim. I was your host, and we will see you guys very soon. Thank you, and good night.
And here we go.
There's the W. Here's ignition.
Doubling up.
Did you just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
We did have an observation. 343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No.
Oh my God.
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.